In Victoria's early days, the sheltered waters of the Gorge Waterway attracted hordes of swimmers each summer. Changing behind the nearest tree was the only option, until the privately owned Gorge swimming baths opened to the paying public in 1906 and became known as the Pays. In 1911, the city constructed a similar facility on the opposite shore, and with no admission charge, this building was soon referred to as the Free. When floating pools appeared, swim clubs were formed and competitions were held. Victoria's most renowned swimmer of that period was a young lady who had won the ladies' 50-yard race in the provincial championships. She was a member of the ladies' club that operated year-round, practicing once a week in the Dinky Pool at the YMYWCA. Audrey Griffin would go on to become a legend in Victoria's sport by winning the annual 3-mile Through Victoria swim race each year from 1915 to 1923 and again in 1927. One of the many youngsters inspired by her abilities was Denny Walker, who was born and raised in the Cloverdale area. His father, being a dedicated soccer man, encouraged his son in that sport, and Denny was the goalkeeper for his Cloverdale school team and for the Saanich District when they won the 1929 City Fragments Cup. Later, swim coach Archie McKinnon watched Denny playing and persuaded him to return to the Y pool. There, he soon became British Columbia's best young backstroke racer. It was at an after-practice social that Denny met Ruby, a member of the Y Ladies swim team. One of their early dates was a swim down the gorge and back without stopping. When the trials for the 1932 LA Olympics were held in the Crystal Garden pool, Denny swam his event fast enough to become the first Victoria swimmer to go to an Olympic Games. The Canadian swim team was made up of 7 men and 7 women, each of whom paid their own way to the Games. On race day, Denny Walker must have thought, "Wow, this is a little different than that Y pool." He finished 3rd in his 400-meter backstroke heat, but nevertheless described the experience as amazing. The following year, he entered the Through Victoria swim, which was held in late August, when the water temperature was at its mildest. Still, many swimmers dropped out. To allow large crowds to gather at the finish line, the 3-mile course had been reversed. Encouraged on by Ruby and Doug Peden, who rode beside him, Denny was the first to finish at the Causeway float. There, hockey's Lester Patrick and the newspaper editor presented him with the Silver Times Cup. Denny never defended his cup win, as he joined the Navy shortly thereafter. He and Ruby married in 1936 and had their first daughter 2 years later. But then war broke out, and his ship spent much of it on patrol in the cold, dangerous North Atlantic. On April 25, 1945, Denny and his Canadian minesweeper Guysborough were torpedoed and sunk by a German U-boat. And that's when all his swimming in the chilly gorge paid off. There weren't enough life rafts for all the survivors, so Denny and others who made it to one without injury made room for the injured by taking turns in the frigid waters and hanging onto the sides. By the time they were rescued 19 hours later, only 37 of the Guysborough's 90 crew were still alive, including Denny. After completing 20 years in the Navy, then working at the Victoria Machinery Depot, he and Ruby continued to pass on their skills by helping a new generation of swimmers at the Y. Tonight, we're honored to induct into the Greater Victoria Sports Hall of Fame a superb backstroker and Victoria's first Olympic swimmer, Denny Walker.